welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. All right, this is a custom video for Tyler, and I'm going to make a couple of these because he asked about a couple different things, and in this video we're going to focus on the difference between Tritium, Swiss-only dials, and Swiss-made dials. All right, so Tyler is looking to get a 16570 Explorer 2. Great choice. They're still somewhat affordable, a lot of functions, so a good thing to look for in 2022. I'd be going for the polar dial, but the black is beautiful as well. All right, so let's go with Tritium first. All right, so Tritium was made up until around 1997, all right? So it changed over during the U serials. So the early U serials had Tritium, and then it changed over to the Swiss-only dials with the U serials. And Tritium, of course, is the Luminova, or the luminous paint, and it's radioactive, and in its prime it just glows all the time. And my no-date sub still actually glows, and it's kind of interesting because once your eyes adjust at night, you can use it all night. You can use it for days on end. It just doesn't need to be recharged. Now, what would I say about Tritium? It's beautiful stuff in the way it patinas, and it's almost like this living, and I compare it with Luminova, and that Luminova is sort of sterile, all right? So if you can think of art, a painting, a real oil painting where you can see the brush strokes, and it's got a real individuality to it, well, that's Tritium. But if you look at Swiss-only dials or Swiss-made dials with the Luminova, it's sort of like a print, you know? It's nice, but it's not as good. It loses some of the soul. And certainly once it starts to patina, you know, that's when the real soul gets there. And it's living in a sense that, well, this is sort of the drawback of it. Whatever is living dies, right? And I think you can look at any sort of Tritium dialed watch, and it has a lifespan in the sense that Tritium's not going to last forever. It's going to crack, it's going to chip, and unless you get in there and have somebody gloss it over, have a third party put some sort of gloss to arrest that, which is not something I'm a fan of, then it's going to all go to hell eventually. You know, with life comes death. And so that's sort of a drawback. And so even a beautifully patinaed Tritium watch, I think, you know, eventually that's going to crack and chip. And if it's me, I probably would have it, you know, cleaned and serviced on a regular basis to have those small particles taken out and to preserve the dial, because those little pieces of Tritium can get on the dial and corrode and mess up the dial. But eventually things will kind of go to hell, and I guess you'll be left with a skeleton set of hands, which I guess for me wouldn't be so bad. I would rather do that than have some third party put some sort of gloss over the Tritium, all right? So I guess just imagine a 16570 with the hands skeletonized, the Tritium just taken out or fallen out, and it would look kind of weird. I've never seen a watch like that, but I would rather have that than have somebody put some fake Tritium that they can patina, and that's what you can have done. But, you know, third parties doing things, putting gloss down or putting a sort of a faux Tritium and patinaing it to match the dial or whatever, you know, it's just not something I'm really a fan of. So yeah, if you're looking for sort of the long game and years of use and being able to change out the hands at RSC and the dial at RSC or whatever, then you're going to want to go with the Swiss-only dials or the Swiss-made dials and that Luminova, which we'll talk about, all right? So yes, Tritium, beautiful stuff, kind of nasty, kind of toxic, corrodes dials, chips, but it's life, and it's like a beautiful oil painting in the way it patinas. It's something really special about it. So you also have to worry about servicing it, and if the Tritium cracks or something happens with it, there are no more Tritium parts. So Rolex will have to, if you're going through RSC, will have to change out, for example, Tritium hands to Luminova hands. And so if you've got a beautiful patinaed dial, you're going to get those white glowing Luminova hands, and so there's going to be mismatch there. I'm not a fan of that as well, and they might force you to do that. So it takes a lot of effort to own a Tritium watch, but they're beautiful. And so kind of like a piece of art. It takes a lot of effort, perhaps, to own an original piece of art, but perhaps worth it. What the fuck is that? Okay, that beeping was totally unnecessary, but we're back. So anyway, I'm a fan of tritium, but if you're just looking for like a no-nonsense, you don't have to worry about it, fuss over it, you can just go to RSC, have your watch serviced and not have to think about it, then I would go with either a Swiss-only dial or a Swiss-made dial. We're going to talk about that in the future. I love these back-to-basics videos, so thank you, Tyler, for this custom video request. You got quite a few more coming, but they're fun. I think there's a lot of value in the tritium dial watches because sometimes here in Japan they go for a little bit cheaper. Well, that's starting to change actually. They're recognizing tritium as potentially collectible. And I think it is collectible because there's going to be a point where it's going to be hard to find tritium, and going for those patinaed pieces, I think that's the future. And I think there's a lot of price rises to come with tritium pieces, but you gotta be aware of the finicky nature of tritium and extra effort that owning a tritium piece takes. Let me know what you think about tritium. I like it, but it is a bit of a hassle, and I like taking my pieces to RSC, and so I hesitate to do that when I have a tritium piece like my 14060 no date sub, which has tritium that has patinaed slightly and has a sort of an eggshell look to it. And look, there's nothing better than getting out a loop and looking at the characteristic of the tritium on a particular watch is different on each watch. And so there's so much sold with tritium watches. All right, let me know what you think. Take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.